So Bedivere, this character, you know, he does come from Arthurian legend.
Yes.
So what were some of the things that you took from that legend and that folklore and then threw it all away and said, okay, this is how I'm going to do Bedivere?
Well, I took nothing from that Arthurian legend. Mostly, back in the years that I was growing up in France, I mean, that's when I came to the awareness of the story and loved it and thought, wow, what a great story, what a great king. I mean, who's this king? You know, I mean, to me, that king existed, you know, and because it resembles so many other kings we've had, you know, in the continent of Africa. Let alone my own country itself had a really powerful king that we once had called Béanzin. He was, you know, imbued with magical powers and so on and so forth. So, yeah, so that was my reference point. And again, the fact that the story is a fictional story, and other than the fact that it's becoming a little more real these days, I really was free from any research.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, he seems like an interesting character to watch because he was an advisor on the council with King Pendragon.
Pendragon, yes.
And now he's almost like a babysitter a little bit to
yes,
Arthur.
Yes.
You know,
well, he's been babysitting without the baby, you know, for, you know, almost 25 years, waiting to see who's going to pull that sword out. And that will be his heir to the throne.
What's he think when he encounters this guy that's sort of this bit of the street punk?
But a street punk who really quite, you know, had a mouth on his, you know, on him, and with very little respect for his destiny. I mean, he's almost like in denial with that. In denial of his responsibility, certainly from the moment that the whole, you know, world sees him pull that sword out of the stone. That's it. He had a responsibility to fulfill, and that's it.
Well, a little bit later this summer, you're in this animated comedy called Blazing Samurai, correct?
Samurai,
which is, I mean, talk about that project and what your character is going to be doing in that movie.
Well, that project, well, I have to go back and sort of do the finished touches on that. But it's a fun character that I was playing. I'm playing a samurai, and it should be fun. It should be fun. It's a lot of fun.
Well, it's based on the Mel Brooks.
It's based on the Mel Brooks interpretation, adaptation, and it's, yeah.
Any final thoughts about, you know, just the fact that you were directed by Guy Ritchie? How is his style sort of different?
It's a great style. Nobody can really pinpoint it. It's almost like you would do it a disservice if you really sort of like define what that style is, because it changes very, you know, given the story, given the picture. But he definitely has a dynamic approach to any of the stories that he tells. He's absolutely a fun guy to be directed by. Yeah, very cool, man.
Well, I enjoyed this movie, and I'm curious why, you know, Arthur starts out as this kind of bit of a gutter punk, street kid, low-level crime boss. Why does that fit in well with his Arthurian legend, which is typically, you know, all very regal and elevated?
Well, I think that was entirely the point. If you're going to tell a story that's been told many times before, you have to do something original. And I'm not sure in this day and age if the noble Arthur on the noble quest is as relatable. You know, we wanted this to feel like an everyman's Arthur, and for some of the challenges that he has to overcome to be relatable to everybody. And so, yeah, I mean, at the beginning where you meet him, which I think we can all relate to, is like living in a time of economic strife, you know, it's a fairly economically depressed area that he is, and he's just trying to survive and live as good a life as he can, and then he's presented with this enormous destiny, or this challenge, and you know, he's terrified. And it's sort of it's a more relatable version of Arthur than we've seen before, which, like I said, is like the noble man on the noble quest to become the noble king.
We like that. Well, okay, so if he's, you know, this is the story of him becoming the leader, what happens next? Because once he's out of that gutter, what's that next adventure for him? I mean, how is he a leader after that?
Well, we'll see. I mean, we take him in this film, obviously. What Guy did was very, very smart. It's the Arthurian legend. It's long. I mean, there's incredible breadth to the story. It's long and like Odyssey-esque tale that goes, you know, on, and all of these incredible characters come in and out of the story. But it's almost impossible to do it justice, distilled down to a 2-hour segment. So Guy decided just to tell the first chapter. So, you know, if there's an appetite for this, if people enjoy the film, we would love nothing more than to come back and continue telling the story, because there's so much great stuff up ahead, particularly the love triangle that develops between Arthur, Guinevere, and Lancelot. Guinevere is the love of Arthur's life. He falls madly in love with this woman, proposes, and she becomes his queen. And then Lancelot comes along and becomes his most trusted confidant and his protector. He's basically the general of Arthur's army and his best friend. And of course, they then betray him and have an affair behind his back. And it's about how you maintain control and be magnanimous in the face of having your heart broken. And also an element of heavy is the head that wears the crown, because, you know, it's one thing to be on the journey to become king, and quite something different to actually have the responsibility day in and day out of leading a kingdom. So hopefully we'll get to go tell those stories. It'll all depend, you know, the audience decides these things. So we'll see if people enjoy the movie and there's an appetite for more.
Hail, King Vortigern!
Why is the water dropped? There are rumors. The legend of the sword of a king other than yourself. Find him. I know your story. What kind of a man would you become had you inherited your father's kingdom instead of being raised in a brothel? What gave you such drive? You felt it, didn't you? The power.
It was Vortigern who murdered your father. But what you didn't account for is what you can do with this sword.
You need to be careful. His power is increasing.
When people fear you, it is the most intoxicating sensation a man can possess.
You're starting to mean something. You're no longer a myth.
I'm gonna kill him.
Put him on his knees! You wanted the prophecy? Raise that sword! Show the people the power of Excalibur!
You're playing with fire.
But doesn't it make the palace burn well?